Can you imagine someone insisting you need an X-ray to prove your wrist hurts? That's exactly what happened to me when I sprained my wrist moving boxes. I wore a brace, no big deal, but a coworker, a college professor, no less, argued I couldn't know I was in pain without a doctor's note. I tried explaining, but she wouldn't budge. Then, I heard an even wilder claim from someone else about genetically modified food being better despite being identical. Here's the kicker. These folks weren't who you'd expect to believe such nonsense. Want to guess their professions? Stick around for a story that'll make you question everything. Ever wonder what happens when a simple wrist brace sparks a workplace comedy? Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride. Last month, I was hauling boxes like a wannabe bodybuilder and, surprise, tweaked my wrist. No biggie, right? I slapped on one of those over-the-counter braces, the kind that screams, "I'm healing, but make it fashion." At work, it became my weekend conversation starter, like, yeah, I'm basically a superhero recovering from saving the world or just moving furniture. Here's where it gets juicy. I'm chatting with a coworker. Let's call her Professor Puzzle, about my wrist. I tell her it's sore, but she'll be fine after a couple days rest. Easy peasy. But oh no, she goes full detective mode, insisting I must get an X-ray to prove it hurt. I'm thinking, lady, it's my wrist, not a crime scene. I explain it's just a sprain, not a broken bone, but she's not buying it. She's convinced only a doctor can confirm I'm in pain, like I'm faking it for the wrist brace street cred. I couldn't help but chuckle at her seriousness. I mean, who knew my wrist would star in its own drama? Honestly, I found it kind of hilarious. It's like she thought my brace was a prop in a medical soap opera. I've had my share of bumps and bruises, and I trust my body to send me the right signals. Haven't we all self-diagnosed a stubbed toe or a paper cut? It's human nature. This whole exchange got me reflecting on how we all see the world differently, sometimes in the funniest ways. Now, hold that thought, because this wrist saga isn't the only quirky tale I've got. There's another story about someone claiming genetically modified apples are better than regular ones. Same molecules, but fancier, apparently. It's too good not to share next. What's the wildest workplace convo you've ever had? Drop in the comments. I'm dying to hear. I bet we've all bumped into a Professor Puzzle or two, right? What's the weirdest debate you've ever had over a minor injury? Picture this. I'm sporting a wrist brace at work, minding my own business, when I stumble into a conversation that's equal parts hilarious and head-scratching. I tweaked my wrist hauling boxes, classic weekend warrior move, and popped on a brace to give it some TLC. It's no big deal, just a sprain. But oh boy, did it spark some unexpected drama. Enter my coworker, who I'm calling Professor X-Ray for reasons you'll soon get. She's a college professor, sharp as a tack, and apparently very passionate about medical protocol. I casually mention my wrist is sore, but should bounce back after a couple of days. Simple, right? Nope. She launches into detective mode, declaring I can't possibly know I'm in pain without an X-ray. I'm standing there, blinking like a cartoon character, thinking, it's my wrist. I'm pretty sure it's not lying to me. I reassure her it's not broken, just grumpy from all those boxes, but she's not having it. To her, pain doesn't exist unless a doctor stamps it with an official, yep, that's sore seal, preferably via X-ray vision. I couldn't help but laugh. Quietly, of course. It was like I'd wandered into a medical sitcom where I'm the clueless patient and she's the scriptwriter. I've always trusted my body to give me the heads up when something's off, like when you know a headache's brewing or your knee's mad about that extra mile. To me, her X-ray obsession was peak comedy, like insisting you need a lab test to confirm you're hungry. We've all met someone with a quirky hill they'll die on, haven't we? Here's where my tale takes a turn, because Professor X-Ray is not the only one with a wild take. Stick around, because I got another story about someone swearing GMO apples are the VIPs of fruit, same as regular ones, but somehow better. What's the funniest you need proof moment you've ever run into? Share in the comments. I'm all ears. I bet we've all got a tale that'll make Professor X-Ray proud. Ever been stuck in a debate that makes you want to laugh and sigh at the same time? That was me, wrist brace and all. when a coworker turned my sprain into a full-blown medical mystery. I'd tweaked my wrist moving boxes. Nothing heroic, just clumsy, and was rocking a brace to let it chill. But when I mentioned it at work, I didn't expect to star in a comedy sketch I never auditioned for. So I'm chatting with my coworker, who I'm dubbing Professor X-Ray because, wow, does she love her diagnostics. I say my wrist sore, but no big deal. It's not broken, just grumpy. She hits me with this wild claim. I can't possibly know I'm in pain without an X-ray and a doctor's official thumbs up. I'm standing there, jaw dropped like I'm in a cartoon, trying not to giggle. I mean, come on, I know when my own wrist is throwing a tantrum. I try explaining, all calm and smiley, that I'm sure it's just a sprain. Picture me waving my braced wrist like, Exhibit A, Your Honor. But Professor X-Ray? She's not budging. It's like she's guarding the gates of medical Factville. And my self-diagnosis isn't on the guest list. I'll be honest, I was torn between cracking up and shaking my head. To me, it's like saying you can't know you're tired without a sleep study. I've always trusted my gut on stuff like this. Haven't we all figured out a bruise or a bellyache without a PhD? Her stubbornness was honestly kind of endearing, like she was ready to fight for X-rays everywhere. It reminded me how we all get hung up on our own version of the rules sometimes, and it's pretty funny when you step back. Hang tight, because this wrist tale's got a buddy. A story about someone claiming a hand cream's got more than 100% water. Yeah, you heard that right. What's the goofiest argument you've ever been roped into? Drop it in the comments. I need a good laugh. I'm sure we've all had a moment where we just had to smile and nod, right? Ever had a conversation so wild it feels like you've stepped into a sitcom? That's what happened when my wrist brace saga took a detour into the land of quirky beliefs. I was nursing a sore wrist from playing amateur mover. Nothing a brace and a few days couldn't fix. But instead of a grand healing montage, I ended up collecting stories that had me chuckling harder than a barrel of sitcom laugh tracks. So, my wrist chilling in its brace, and I'm thinking the drama's over. Nope. The spotlight shift to a friend. Let's call him Dr. Curious, who dropped some mind-boggling wisdom. Picture this. We're chatting about food, and they swear genetically modified apples are exactly the same as regular ones, down to the last molecule. Same, but better. I'm like, wait, what? How's that math work? I'm picturing these apples strutting around in tiny superhero capes, claiming VIP status for no reason. I try poking holes in the logic, but Dr. Curious is all in, nodding like they've cracked the code to the universe's fruit basket. Then it gets wilder. They mention a hand cream that supposedly got over 100% water. I'm imagining a jar bursting like a cartoon waterfall, defying physics like it's auditioning for a sci-fi flick. I couldn't help but laugh. It's like believing a pizza's 110% cheese. For me, these moments are gold. I love how people's brains take these unexpected detours. I'm no scientist, but I've learned to double-check claims that sound like they belong in a comedy sketch. Haven't we all heard a fact that made us raise an eyebrow? These stories aren't about proving anyone wrong. They're just fun reminders that even smart folks can toss out head-scratchers. Speaking of which, my wrist tale's got one more twist coming up. So don't go anywhere. What's the funniest claim you've ever heard? Spill the tea in the comments. I'm dying to know. I bet we've all got a story about a belief that made us do a double take, right? Ever wonder if a fancy degree guarantees flawless logic? Spoiler alert. My wrist brace adventure taught me even the brainiest folks can toss out ideas that'll make you giggle. It all started with a sore wrist from my not-so-glorious box-moving marathon, but the real fun came from the quirky conversations it sparked. I'm talking beliefs so wild they deserve their own comedy special, and I'm here to share the grand finale. Picture me, wrist brace and ready to wrap up my tale, reflecting on chats with two characters straight out of a sitcom. First, there's Professor X-Ray, a college professor who insisted my sprain needed an X-ray to prove it existed. Like my wrist was pulling a prank. Then, my pal Dr. Curious claimed GMO apples are identical to regular ones but somehow better, and don't get me started on their over 100% water hand cream pitch. I'm imagining a jar defying math, like it's training for the Logic Olympics. These moments have me cracking up, Not because I'm a know-it-all, but because they show how even sharp minds can take a detour into Wackyville. Here's my take. I love that we're all a little quirky. I believe some silly things too, like thinking I could taste a rainbow with certain candies. It's human, but these chats reminded me to hit pause and ask, does that actually add up? It's less about calling anyone out and more about keeping my curiosity sharp. We've all got blind spots, right? The trick is laughing at them while staying open to learning. So, that's the wrap on my wrist saga. No epic quest, just a nudge to double-check bold claims, even from folks with shiny credentials. Up next, I've got thoughts on how these lessons pop up in everyday life. So stick around. What's a belief you've heard, or maybe even had, that makes you laugh now? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears. I'm betting we've all got a story that'd fit right into this comedy of quirks. Don't you think? My wrist brace saga was a wild ride of quirky beliefs. From a professor insisting I needed an x-ray to prove my sprain, to a friend claiming GMO apples are better despite being identical, and a hand cream boasting over 100% water. These moments were comedy gold. The takeaway? Even smart folks can have wacky ideas. So always question bold claims with a smile. Next time you hear a head scratcher, pause and ask, does that make sense? It's a fun way to stay curious. Share your own quirky stories. What's a belief that made you chuckle?
Thanks for listening to my story. It's been a heavy one to share. I'm still figuring out what comes next, but having you here means a lot. If you connected with this, please hit that subscribe button for Life Reflections. I'd love to have you along for more real moments like this. Take care, everyone.